Hey everyone, it's Carissa Wiley here for Concord and Ninth. Thanks for joining me today. I'm here to give you a look at the complete December 2022 release from Concord and Ninth. Spoiler alert, it's fabulous. Allow me to introduce you to the new Eclectic Blooms bundle, which includes the Eclectic Blooms stamp set and coordinating die set. And I love this bundle because you can use this year-round for a variety of occasions. The focal point is this beautiful floral image, and there's also these abstract images that you can use to create a background. It also features this big, bold, so kind of you sentiment and these filler images that you can stamp inside the flower to give it an abstract colored look. This stamp set could be used for thank you cards, sympathy cards, birthday cards, you name it, it is very versatile. Now the coordinating die set includes the large die to cut out that focal floral image. This die here cuts out that big, bold, so kind of you sentiment, and there are 3 word sentiment dies as well. So let's have a look at all of the die cuts as well as the stamps stamped out. I have this background that I created using the splatter image as well as the 2 large kind of abstract shapes, whatever you want to call those. And then I have all of the die cuts here. So I have that floral image die cut, the so kind of you sentiment. That is such a beautiful, bold sentiment that you can use for so many occasions. And then I have the 3 die cut word sentiments that include the shadows as well, which I think is great. So let's have a look at these products in action on a couple of cards that I created. This first card is very simple. It features this abstract background that I stamped in sea glass and stardust. And then I stamped that floral image right on top, but I die cut it and popped it up to give it a little bit of dimension. And that really does bring so much life and depth to this card. Now I chose the thanks die cut sentiment. I die cut that from some Stardust cardstock and matted it onto a vellum shadow layer. I absolutely love the simplicity of that first card. For the second card, I used those abstract pieces again and kind of created a opposing corner design here with a lot of color. And then in the opposite corners, I stamped that floral image, which I think creates a really fun and modern look. I heat embossed the So Kind of You sentiment in black embossing powder. And then I die cut that using the coordinating die, and I offset it using a second die cut behind it, cut from the matte gold cardstock from Concord and Ninth. And I added a few hearts from the Happy Rays die set. So there you have it, an up close and personal look at the new Eclectic Blooms stamp and coordinating die set. I can't wait to see how you use this year round in your card making projects. This die set might be my favorite of the year. This is the Pop-Up Shop base die set. This die set might not look like much here, but it creates the most adorable pop-up shop on a card front. It folds flat so you can place it in an envelope. And just so you can kind of see what I'm talking about, I'm going to go ahead and bring in a finished card project first so you don't think I'm losing my mind. This is the finished pop-up shop card. So it has a really fun design that allows it to lay flat in an envelope. Now the pop-up shop base dies include everything you need to create the base of this card, including this piece here, which creates the pop-up portion of the card, and all of the pieces that you need to embellish your shop. Several of these die cuts layer together to create the details on the building. So these larger rectangles layer together to create the dental molding. You have a couple door layers here that create the door as well as the panels inside of the door. This smaller die here cuts the hardware for the door as well as the light bulb for the lamp. These smaller rectangles and strips layer together to create an adorable planter box for the front of your building. And then there, of course, are the greenery dies along with the little flowers. The table and chairs are so much fun because those can be used to create a variety of different types of shops, and they can be used inside of the shop window or outside like it's on the street. There's also this adorable hinged sign. So when you die cut it, it creates a little score line. And when you score that, you can just pop it up and have it stick out from the front of your building. And then there are some detail layers for the windows as well. So they have literally thought of everything in this pop-up shop. And I think it's so much fun to put together and it's so easy. I'm going to show you how to put it together right now. To assemble my pop-up shop, I have cut the base piece here. So this creates the pop-up portion of the shop. I have a piece of acetate to layer behind my shop windows. I also have a top folding A2 size card created from some white cardstock. And then I have that skinny rectangle strip cut from the ballet slipper cardstock as well. So when you die cut the main portion of the pop-up shop, the pop-up portion, it creates the score lines in this piece for you. So all you have to do is fold along those score lines and use a bone folder to make those creases nice and sharp. That'll just really elevate your card in the long run to have those nice sharp creases. And you're going to fold those tabs on both sides or both ends of the shop base. Now, once I have all of my score lines reinforced, I'm going to show you what this piece looks like. You're basically going to have two tabs on each end of the shop. One is going to be for the adhesive, and the other is the part that allows the shop to pop up off the front of the card. So once I have those reinforced, I'll kind of lay it flat again, just so I can add my adhesive. Now, I do recommend using a really strong adhesive. So whatever that looks like for you, that's what you're going to want to use here. I'm using a 1/4 inch tape here and just laying it on the very top tab and the very bottom tab. Now I'm going to take that same adhesive and I'm just going to put a couple strips on the inside of my pop-up shop base so that I can add my acetate to the inside of this shop. Now the acetate is kind of optional, but I do recommend it because it really does add a little bit of sturdiness to this pop-up shop front. And it also gives you a place where you can inlay your details on those transom windows. So you're gonna wanna add either a nice thick piece of acetate here, or you can add some vellum or some old packaging. Those are all options. Now, you just want to make sure that your acetate is not interfering with any of those score lines that you have. And now you're ready to place this shop on the front of your card. Now, before you add it to your card front, I do recommend adding your doors or your little inlaid transom window panes. I just find that these are easier to adhere when this is laying flat. So once you have all of that added, you're going to grab your card front, your long skinny strip rectangle piece, and your pop-up shop base, and you're going to remove the adhesive or the backer from the lower tab. I'm going to fold that tab to where it's flat against my pop-up shop base, and I'm going to make sure that the score line of that is aligned with the bottom of my card. So you can see once I have that aligned and pressed into place, I have this really nice clean edge along the bottom of my card. Now it's time to adhere the upper portion, and this is where it can be a little tricky, but Concord and 9th has thought of everything, and so they created this little guide piece. You're going to take this and you're going to line it up with the top edge of your card. I already had some adhesive along the back, so I'm just placing that right along the top edge of my card, making sure it's nice and flush. This is going to create a guide for me to help me align that upper tab of the shop. So I am going to go ahead and remove the backer from the adhesive on the very top flap. And then I am going to fold that tab back just like I did along the bottom. And I want that score line to meet up with the bottom portion of that guide piece that we placed. Now you can either try to do this with it kind of popping up and folded, but I like to kind of push my pop-up shop flat here along the bottom and then fold that tab in. And that allows me to press this right up against the edge of that guide piece that I placed along the top of my shop and then press this into place. So it really is easy to put together once you kind of fold it flat like that. And that gives you that nice finished area of the card. Now it's great to actually use a white card base for this because it allows there to be some contrast between what's inside the window and the outside of the building. Now you can see that when this pop-up shop card is put together, it folds flat so you can place it in an envelope. And this card here features only dies from the pop-up shop base die set. So this can be created using no other die sets. Now, if you want to grab the Bake Shop coordinating die set that's available as well, you can create a fun little bakery scene inside of your card. Or there's also a Bookshop add-on die set that you can pick up as well to create an adorable bookshop. So there you have it, an up-close and personal look at the pop-up shop base die set. These are so fun and easy to put together, and you can embellish them with any small dies that you may have in your stash. And I think it would be so much fun to create an entire colorful village of these pop-up shop cards. I can't wait to see all of the creative ideas you guys come up with featuring these pop-up shop base dies. I'm sure you're gonna blow us away. Let's take a look together at the new Bake Shop stamp and coordinating die set that were designed to coordinate with the pop-up shop base dies, but they can also be used on their own for some sweet card projects. The Bake Shop stamp set has some adorable sentiments as well as some little words that coordinate perfectly with the pop-up shop base die sign. And the die set includes a bunch of dies to embellish the inside of a pop-up shop and create your own custom coffee shop, bakery, bread shop, whatever that might be. So here's a look at all of the dies die cut from various colors of cardstock. It starts out with this base die, which creates kind of your display rack. There's a couple of pieces that you can use to create cakes, as well as a little die that creates the frosting detail. There's this adorable tiered rack, as well as some pieces that you can use to create either muffins or cupcakes, along with the cupcake liners. There's some baked goods like breads and pretzels. And then there are a couple of baskets that you can place on the shelves as well. Now, one of the things I really love about this die set is that some of these smaller images cut out in multiples. So you cut 3 cupcake bases at the same time, 4 little coffee cups at the same time, as well as 3 frostings at the same time. So it makes it really easy. Now for this card, I have combined the pop-up shop base dies with the Bake Shop dies and stamp set to create my own little adorable bakery, and I heat embossed this For a Sweet Friend sentiment on the acetate window. Now inside of my bake shop, there's all kinds of cakes and cupcakes and breads, and then I stamped the word bakery on that sign. I added the table from the pop-up shop base die inside of my little shop there with a little coffee cup on the top, and keep in mind that this will fold flat to go into an envelope and mail easily and then pop up when the recipient takes it out. I think that is so much fun. I've also created a card that features just the Bake Shop stamps and coordinating dies. And I created this little Let's Catch Up card with all of these colorful coffee mugs. And I die cut the frosting piece from the die set and used it as whipped cream inside of my mugs. And I just added a little shading with a Copic marker and a little bit of sparkle pin to the top of that as well. And that creates an adorable Let's Catch Up coffee card, which is such a colorful way to tell a friend that you want to have coffee with them. On their own or in conjunction with the pop-up shop base dies, the Bake Shop stamps and dies are perfect for the sweetest card projects. I'd like to give you an up-close and personal look at the new Bookshop stamps and coordinating dies from Concord and Ninth. Now, this mini stamp set and coordinating die set were designed to help you customize the pop-up shop base dies and create an adorable bookshop inside of that little pop-up shop, but they can be used on their own as well to create colorful book-themed projects for that avid reader in your life, or maybe for someone who needs to read a little bit more. So here is a look at the stamp set. You can see there are stamps to customize the sign of the pop-up shop, but there's also some adorable sentiments as well. I love the one that says, "Our friendship is my favorite story." Let's have a look at all of the die cuts that you can create with this die set. And it starts out with the ladder and the bookshelf, which I think are kind of the focal images of this die set. And so much fun to embellish with the different book stacks, individual books, which I've also die cut from some gold cardstock as well. All of these small individual books were created with just 3 dies from the die set. There's also some front-facing books, which I think is fun as well to kind of mix it up, and they do have a little scored detail. There's a couple of dies to create that pot, some greenery, as well as a lamp that includes 2 different options for the lampshade, and of course, a little kitty. Now for this first card, I used the Bookshop stamps and coordinating dies along with the pop-up shop base dies to create my own little colorful bookstore. I think this is so much fun. I used a bunch of those colorful books inside of the bookshelf in this store, and I die cut my ladder from some gold cardstock. I also used that books and die cut it with the oval from the pop-up shop base to create my sign above the window. And I also tucked the little table from the pop-up shop base die in there with a stack of books. Now this stamp and die set is perfect for using on its own as well. And you can see this very colorful but simple card that I created featuring the ladder as my bookshelf and all of these colorful books stacked up on that ladder. I also stamped the "Our Friendship is My Favorite Story" along the bottom of this panel, and I added a little bit of greenery to the top of this ladder, just kind of falling over the edge, and I think that makes an adorable card. Use them on their own or in coordination with the pop-up shop base dies, but I think you're going to have a great time creating with the Bookshop stamps and coordinating dies. A Concord and Ninth release never feels quite complete without a Turnabout stamp, and I have a brand new one to share with you. This is the Happy Rays Turnabout stamp set and coordinating die set, and I think it is so appropriately named because this Happy Rays set will make the happiest cards for you to give, and it's great for so many occasions. Now, as with all Turnabout stamps, it will come with the alignment guide, so be sure to hang on to that. Now, these rays are the actual Turnabout, so all of the additional imagery that you're seeing are additional sentiments and accent pieces that will create the happiest of cards. And I love the adorable faces and the cheeks along the bottom, and there's so many ways that you can use these stamps together or on their own. Now, the coordinating die set includes circles that cut out all of these various circles and a couple of dies that coordinate with the sunshine and hugs sentiments. There's also some great hearts, but let's have a look at this die in action because it is so cool. It creates this really cool knockout effect. So it doesn't actually cut out a shape. It only knocks out those little circles and creates that stitched ray pattern on your card front. And this is so much fun to die cut from your card front and then layer a piece of metallic or glitter cardstock behind it. Here is a look at the stamps and dies together in action. You can see I have used the various circles to die cut the faces and the sentiments. And then I always love me a good die cut stamp sentiment. There's nothing like it. This is also a die which includes the face and the little cheeks, and I've just backed that with a little bit of glitter cardstock to make it shine. There are so many fun options in this stamp and die set. So let's have a look at the Turnabout stamp in action. And I am using my Concord and Ninth all-in-one Turnabout jig to stamp this Happy Raise Turnabout stamp. Now, keep in mind, you can use a square piece of cardstock or you can use an A2 size piece of cardstock. Either one will work. And I'm positioning this A2 size card, which measures 4¼ by 5½, onto my all-in-one Turnabout jig. And there are some marks on there which help me perfectly align my A2 size cardstock onto my jig. Now I'm starting with the number 1 in the upper right hand corner of my Turnabout jig, and I'm inking up my stamp using Stardust ink first. I'm going to close the lid of my MISTI right over my Turnabout jig and my cardstock. Don't worry about the ink that's getting on the Turnabout jig. Once you're done stamping, you can just run that under some water and it rinses right off. So now that I've stamped my first impression, I'm going to rotate my Turnabout jig to where the number 2 is in the upper right hand corner. I've cleaned my stamp and now I'm inking up my stamp with grapefruit ink. And once I have that inked up, I'll go ahead and close the lid of my MISTI again, making sure that each time I stamp that my alignment guide is securely nestled in that lower right-hand corner. So I have my second color stamped. Now I'm going to rotate my jig again, where my number 3 is in the upper right-hand corner. I've cleaned my stamp, and now I'm inking up my stamp with Concord and Ninth Peacock ink. I'm creating a really fun color palette here that I absolutely love, but keep in mind you can use 1, 2, 3, or 4 different colors to create your Turnabout design. Once I have that inked up, I'll close the lid of my MISTI, once again keeping that jig nestled into the lower right-hand corner of my MISTI stamping tool. And then I am going to rotate my jig one last time to where the number 4 is in the upper right-hand corner. I'll clean my stamp, and this time I am going to ink up my stamp using Ballet Slipper ink from Concord and Ninth. Now, once I get this final color stamped, I will have my complete pattern here. You can see all of these happy, colorful rays, and you can imagine that all of the different color palettes that you create will change up the look of this stamp. Now, to remove my cardstock from the jig, I like to bend the jig away from the cardstock to keep my cardstock from curling, and you can see the fun pattern I've created here. Now let's look at the variety of different colors in action. So here is the one we just created, but if you stamp this stamp 4 times in the same color, this is what it looks like. I've used grapefruit ink here. Or this is a 4-color stamping of the Turnabout here. So I've used honeysuckle, buttercup, sea glass, and grapefruit on that. And finally, this is a look at that stamp stamped in just 2 colors. So I've used the buttercup and the grapefruit for that. So you can see how this pattern really changes based on the colors that you use. Now, I've created a few cards to share with you today featuring the Happy Raise stamps and coordinating die set. I have done all stamping on this card here. I've used that sunshine and stamped it a few times, repeated in different colors on the card front. And then I just added a couple of the accent pieces and that curved thoughts below it. I think that is just a fun and simple card that can be recreated over and over again. Now here I've stamped the Turnabout stamp in 3 different colors, and I've cut that pattern in half so that it doesn't cover my full card. And I've used Stardust twice, grapefruit and peacock to stamp that. I used the So Nice circle sentiment there, and I filled it in using the words there. So you can use that circle on its own or fill it in with the little word stamp there. And I added just a band of gold cardstock and matted that circle sentiment with some gold cardstock as well. Now this one might be my favorite. I stamped the Turnabout stamp and used some white glitter embossing powder to create my rays. And then I just ink blended with Ballet Slipper and grapefruit ink over that embossed pattern. Then I used that little knockout ray die to create that pattern on my card front, and I backed it with some matte gold cardstock from Concord and Ninth. I stamped an ombre sentiment, added a little gold embossing to the bottom, and popped that up in the center. And it's amazing how the color palette really changes the look of this stamp set. So there's an in-depth look at the Happy Race Turnabout stamp set and coordinating dies. These products create the happiest of cards with endless options.